All right, welcome into the C3 pod. My name's Steve Johnston, the current toy expert at History's Pawn Stars, owner of Pandemonium Cards and Comics in Henderson, Nevada. Coming soon to Portland, Oregon as well. And Access Entertainment, we produce shows and events and all that stuff. In the top right corner with me today is my man, Mr. Brett Lawson, student of the game and the Gameday Huddle, as well as just let's talk about pop culture extraordinaire. If there's something in the world of pop culture, he knows something about it. We'll call him the vast almanac of useless pop culture knowledge.
Emphasis on the useless.
I think that's perfect for you, right? Like that's a
Absolutely.
great,
To a T.
perfect introduction.
To a T.
In the bottom left corner, Mr. Paul Vato joins us somewhere disclosed or undisclosed in Chicago, Illinois. Home of those Chicago Cubs. Congratulations to the Cubs on their nice postseason run, and once again coming up short. And then down to the bottom right, from Bakersfield, California.
I mean, it's at least not the Yankees though, right? Because
all right, bye,
guys. Not yet. But yeah, like that he goes out. And the bottom right for Bakersfield, California, senior editor for ComicCon.com, Mr. Brendan Allen joins us as well. Guys, welcome in today. We've had a interesting week, I think, in the realm of pop culture. There's been a lot of things going on, and I know everyone's had things happening on their end. We'll start with Brendan. Brendan, I know that, Bakersfield hasn't had a ton of, exciting things going on out there, but you just had the world of Comic-Con on full fledged, right? Because New York Comic-Con was last week. I'm sure that on your world, right? So what's been going on with you and what have you been up to?
No matter where you're at in the world, when New York Comic Con is happening, when San Diego Comic Con is happening, when Denver Pop Culture Con is happening, we just get inundated with press releases. And a lot of times they could just send it to me on, Tuesday last week and say, don't print this until Saturday at 2 or whatever. But what they do, a lot of the publishers and presenters at Comic-Con will do is they'll send it right after they presented it, which is prime time Saturday, which means that I can't run it till Monday because we already have our Saturday content and our Sunday content. So I'll end up, Monday morning with 2,000 emails about stuff. And it's like, if they had sent it out earlier, it would have run concurrently or after, if they have a panel at 2:00, we can run it at 3:00 with, hey, this was what was announced at the panel, but they really want to keep that stuff tight to the chest. And so they end up sending it out late. So we do get some stuff ahead of time, but we're working like mad on Thursday and Friday ahead of the con. And then Monday, Tuesday, trying to catch up to all the news that came out of the convention. One of the cool things that happened is our friend Fireball Tim went out to New York Comic Con as a guest of Fan Home because they're doing the 1989 Batmobile as a build-up subscription in a 1:6 scale, which is massive. And he designed that car. And so he was able to go out there, but they had, Iron Spider, which is huge. They had the 2-foot tall, 3-foot tall Darth Vader. They had the Jetta from Fast and Furious, Brian's car. They had all that cool stuff there, but the Batmobile got held up in customs. So it's sitting in Europe somewhere. And the guy who designed the car is there to talk about it and sign autographs and take pictures with it and stuff. And the car is just not there, which Fireball took on the chin. And he was like, you know what, I'm here. It's cool. I'm here for the fans. He was signing and doing all this stuff, but a little disappointed not to be able to see his baby in real life, which was, what he went there to do, is to be photographed with it and to introduce the fans to it or whatever. So that was kind of a funny little thing that happened over the weekend. But yeah, it's been busy. It'll stay busy probably for the next couple of days, but we'll get caught up.
Well, as we know, Fireball Tim too, he's one of those guys that I'm positive that he will do everything he can to make sure that he has one of those, but he will also tell everyone about it. He will show it. So Fan Home would definitely benefit from the fact if they make sure that he gets a copy of that sent to him, because he will definitely showcase it.
He gets real excited about his work.
Yeah, no, for sure. And
we saw it firsthand.
Yeah, and you appreciate that, right? Like when someone puts that type of effort into their craft and then, loves to see the result and share that result with the fans or whatever it is.
Can't teach passion.
Mr. Brett Lawson, I mean, obviously the sports front in your world has been massive. You probably haven't left the TV screen in a while. My Oregon Ducks lost on Saturday. My Padres lost the week and a half prior. My Chargers tried to lose in Miami.
With those
real quick, I
injuries.
have to tell you this because I love it. So I ended up going to the Raiders game on Sunday, right? And we're in the team shop and I'm buying my son stuff. He wants a hat and whatever. So we're in there and the game's on the screens right behind the register. Yeah. And the Dolphins drive and end up winning or, scoring, right?
Yeah. You think that it's going to be the game winner. Right.
I'm sitting there and I go and I look at the clock And the guy in front of me is like, yeah, I think the Dolphins got this. I look at him and I said, 46 seconds, Justin Herbert, and you only have 40 yards, the new rules.
Yep.
Nope. Ball game, Chargers. This is going to get kicked off. Yep. And he's like, what? And I'm like, Dicker's good from 70. So, this is, anywhere even remotely close. As soon as I said they had to get 40, Herbert rolls out. He's about to get tackled, throws the bomb, across the other side of the field. Because people don't realize when you throw it across the field, you're throwing it a long ways.
Yep. Cardinal sin. That's a cardinal sin.
And throws it across. He hits McConkey. McConkey goes 42 yards. And I looked at the guy and I said, ball game.
Yep.
And he goes, how did you call that?
and talk about needed, right? With all the injuries they're facing, with the fact they needed to get back on track over the last 2 weeks, and the fact, let's be real, it always makes it a little sweeter when you're beating one of your draft mates. Every time Tua Tagovailoa and Justin Herbert have faced off, it's kind of like, its own headline in itself. So that's a big deal. But not to answer your question, absolutely. With all the pain and despair that you get from the New York Yankees, Jackson Dart and Cam Skattebo are reinvigorating me. So definitely, the ebbs and flows of it all. But I've always said October is the best.
I hope that Cam Skattebo gets some type of comic character somewhere from some writer, because that dude is diabolical in his own way. And it's so entertaining. And look, if you guys, this isn't a sports podcast, but if you just enjoy like energy and fun and someone who really has a passion for what they do, this kid and I got to meet him while he was at Arizona State, right?
Yep.
And this kid is just a fire plug. He is always hyped. He's always screaming. He's always yelling. He rips his shirt off after the game interview.
Bumps Ron
he is definitely. I'm gonna call it now. Right, you will see Cam Skattebo making an appearance in WWE at some point. Yeah. I promise you. The kid's just wired that way. So, it's kind of fun when you can look at this and say, hey, our world of pop culture, we know this is going to happen,
100%. And the fact that in our show, the Gameday Huddle, we spent a considerable amount of time with our buddy Jimmy Garino talking about how good he was in college and saying he could be a steal when he goes in the draft. He winds up falling to the fourth round in the third day. He gets picked early in the morning. In our group chat, we even mentioned how much of a steal it could be. But I think at this point, if you're a Giant fan, he's surpassing all expectations. He's the most viral football player on social media right now. People who aren't even big into New York sports or into football in general are kind of like latching on to what this guy's about, because he's a throwback, like you said, Steve. Yeah. He's an absolute fire plug. He's explosive out there. He's passionate, and the intensity, you could feel it through the screen. He does very much feel like a character out of pro wrestling or someone out of fiction. Yeah. And it's cool because it's just a reminder of how, if there's one thing that is the bridge between the sports world and what we talk about here, it's character. And that's what we're always looking for. And it's the pro sports world. Sometimes it gets a little boring. And that's why it's fun when you do get them in the world of sports. Football, you get it more often, but across the board in sports, you need that.
And it's fun. It's fun when your sports figures become part of pop culture. And so we saw this week that although we knew officially he was going to be involved, right? Lou Ferrigno, they kind of unveiled what he actually is, right?
Yes.
So we all found out. To us, he's Maestro. To the common everyone, he's the grandfather Hulk. The what did they brand him as? Do you recall?
Oh, I forget. I'm sure we'll get a note here from Eric in a second, but I forget what the name is. But it fits.
The King Hulk or something along those lines. It was something along the Wise Hulk, or I don't know what it was. The way that they're doing it, Maestro, because Eric said Maestro, they didn't brand him as Maestro. He's definitely playing Maestro, right? So we know that he's definitely playing that character. But there was a way they introduced him, and I can't remember.
Master Hulk.
Master Hulk. That's what.
There we go.
And so, when you see stuff like that, Brett, obviously that's exciting, right? Like here it is. Lou Ferrigno, we all know him as the Hulk, but prior to that, he was one of the top competitors in the world of bodybuilding, right?
Legend. Absolutely. And that's what's so cool, because it's so easy to talk about Arnold. I mean, Arnold has, transcended it so much. You forget. We kind of still talk about Ferrigno like he was that, but they were contemporaries, and that's what makes it so cool. We've seen them both take their own paths, and, kind of a tease of what's coming up. In our second segment, we're going to allude to just that, how athletes can become pop culture icons by branching out into another medium, another form of entertainment. We're starting to see it more and more because there's so many different ways you can do it. It kind of used to be a more linear path. Now with the digital age, there's so many ways you can. But I think it's awesome because so often, you get it. Even me as a sportscaster, I'll see people you see these ex-athletes who become just that. They become broadcasters, they host shows, they become commentators, and they become iconic in that right. And yet there's a whole contingent of people, a whole audience, a whole demographic who don't even realize that this player was one of the best to ever do it. I mean, even in the wrestling world, Triple H and The Rock, you can't tell the story of what happens in the ring without them. Yet in terms of what's going down in recent years in WWE, there's the fan base now is going to know them in a whole new light. It's kind of cool. Just it all kind of depends on where in the timeline you land.
Well, you mentioned The Rock, and The Rock, he played football at University of Miami. So look, these guys all have lineage and parallels. The athlete and the sports side and everything is always big. And when you have that both with actors and, with say WWE and that's performance related, right? But it is physical performance.
Right.
Obviously that's, a really big deal. Now in the world of Chicago, right? Talking sports, Chicago just got a huge win over, the Big Bad Wolf, which has now become the Commanders, right? The Commanders and the Eagles are kind of like the two teams in the NFC that everybody is shooting for. Right. And Mr. Paul Vato's Chicago Bears went out and put a W on the board, which was real good. But what's going on in the world over there, Paul, with you and in Chicago? And are we going to meet Mom today?
Ooh, that's a great question. If she, as soon as she's ready for lunch, our nanny will make lunch for us, and then I will introduce you to Mother Vato.
Awesome,
Mama Vato.
I feel like Paul just built a whole new brand off that.
And Brennan asked in the chat, "What do you have coming from Uber Eats right now?"
I told you our nanny will be taking care of lunch soon. So
right.
Why do I feel like you having a nanny is just right on brand?
On the nose.
It's 100%.
Like no kids, but you have a nanny.
Correct. I am the child.
It's not a caretaker. It's not,
he's wearing one of those oversized diapers that they sell in the back room.
It's both for utility, because I love it. I never have to even get out of bed. If I didn't have to do this podcast, I'd throw on the Depends and just stay in bed all day. There's also a device that I'm going to take from my mom. She's not using it. ProWick, I think it's called. So you can it works on suction, I guess. So you put it.
All right, moving on. No, yeah. That's enough.
You realize that there's lines in the podcast, and Paul, you have a tendency to definitely surpass those lines on a regular basis.
That's for the what's it called, for the Patreon.
Yes. Edit that 30 seconds out, Eric.
Which, by the way, since you mentioned it real quick, if you guys want, make sure you check out our Patreon. Join it there. Lots of content like we were talking about there. You probably have Paul talk about his suction device, whatever it is. That could be a topic on there. But in between breaks and sometimes after the podcast, we just go on rants and tangents, and those get shared with you, as well as additional content. I know that I just did an article that'll be posted on there as well, and so there'll be that info. And then I know that the team has been working together to add some additional content and get some things together. Paul's working on website. We've got all kinds of stuff going on. So guys, please make sure you check out the
Paul Vato building our website on their bingo card for 2025.
Right. I'm telling you now, I absolutely thought that was,
and it's decent. Like I would have thought there would have been a lot more like hidden penises and things around the borders and stuff like that. But no, it's a really nice looking website. Like
it's totally legit. Yes. It's on the up and up, right?
So got to give him some credit. But anyways, Paul, what's going on with you in Chicago, man? What have you been up to?
Man, it's getting colder. I'm on my health journey, so I now have a nutritionist and I'm eating better. But I feel like you guys expect me to promote something or tell people to buy my Vato coin, but I'm not going to sit here and just promote my own stuff.
He just got 3 product mentions in that one sentence, but yeah, we'll go ahead and
let me finish. I've got a few more. I mean, I don't have to tell you about Parse rum and how good it is. Yeah,
this is an awfully refreshing Coca-Cola Light.
Subtle.
No, I'm just my mom. Thank God, is getting stronger and stronger by the day. Which also was better when she was just bedridden, because then I could, I kind of had to house myself. Now I got to be careful, because at any moment she can get herself out of bed and walk around the compound, and so I got to be careful. But other than that, yeah, she's getting stronger and stronger, and we're taking care of her, and it's all good. So if she comes out here, I will introduce you to her. If not this week, maybe next week we can bring her on or something. She would love that.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
definitely. We'd love to see her as well. And of course, Paul's there. And again, he's been a little humble today, which is kind of surprising. I can see Brett's very confused.
Yeah,
and that is
it's like, what's going on?
Paul didn't take every other chance to promote school or his Vato coin or all that. But if you get a chance, go check out Paul's site. Where do they go? Vato. You're muted there, bud. I don't know if you muted yourself or Eric decided that you were turned off. In fact, I would probably bet that Brendan and Eric had a pretty good conversation this week. And there was a good chance he was going to be muting your mic. But make sure you guys go to the websites. What is it? paulvato.com?
If you go to paulvato.com, you can find everything. And if you guys give me, if it's a go for our website, I can put a link on there. So for now, just go to paulvato.com. You can follow me across all social media. And then as soon as you guys are happy with the website, I can, make it live, I guess, if you will. It's live, but you need the link.
Of course.
And so
come in. In fact, probably next week we'll unveil the website to the world. How about that?
Ooh,
I think that's the way we do.
I like
this.
it.
So we're looking forward to that and everything. Now, I wanted to mention this really quick, guys, kind of as we're wrapping up the first segment here, is that Big Bad Toy Store made an announcement. They have an exclusive G.I. Joe classified line, Mole Rat. This is a really interesting character for G.I. Joe, and that is the Mole Rats generally have had like some type of covering on their head, almost like a mask that they wore underneath their helmets. So this is the first time that we're really getting like a figure with the facial portion of what the mole rat would be. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting to see because essentially these guys are like what, zombies, Brendan?
Yeah, they're basically they're the version in G.I. Joe of like the foot soldiers. You don't know what they look like because they're always wearing a mask or whatever. But this figure comes with 3 different heads. One of them is the mask. It's like a gas mask. Then there's this one that's got, some of the crystallization and the zombie features. And there's the one that you just saw a second ago that's got all those crystals on it. And I just, they had other figures on there that are more recognizable in this line that are, the ninjas and the fighters and things like that. But this one really stuck out to me because it's blacklight reactive. It's got those different head sculpts, and then it comes with, a backpack, a scanner, a dark energon canister, a drill trigger with drill bit. So if you're doing your diorama display, like a lot of people buy these figures for, and you get 3 of these or 4 of these or 5 of these, you can outfit them all differently, put different heads on them, and give them different gear to be doing different action things in the background or in the foreground or whatever. But because there are enough different parts of this, you can make it look so different to make a really dynamic display. And I think that at this price point, that's why people are buying them, is to display them, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that when they do this and they make it to where there's a multitude of different characters, and if you notice, this is stage 2. So there's also an addition that is going to be different of this character at some point, I would guess, because the original Mole Rat was actually, I want to say they were brown, right? They had a brown suit. But this is a very cool army builder, and that's what a lot of G.I. Joe classified collectors do, is they will build armies and they're looking for different heads. And you even see where guys will take and they'll swap heads on, Cobra Troopers and stuff with other types of toys, whether it's a WWE figure or whether it's a Marvel Legend or something like that, just to create all these different characters. One thing I didn't like about this is that the suit that they're wearing, I understand that this is one of their decos, but this actually goes to another character in G.I. Joe, which is Copperhead. And Copperhead is very iconic to G.I. Joe because he had one of the boats, and he was like the Copperheads were the driver of the boats, right? And there were these hovercrafts that were out there. And the deco to this is very, very reminiscent of that. That's the only thing that kind of threw me off.
Oh, well,
because at first I thought that when I first saw the figure, before I saw the announcement, I was like, oh, dude, they're doing another version of Copperhead here. And then, no, they're not. This is actually the Mole Rat.
So it is poor planning, but Copperhead's pants have where you see on the sleeves that stripe going down. Those are Copperhead's pants, not the sleeves. And the Copperhead is in. He's got the classic wife beater on that's got the low neckline and the exposed arm. So it's not quite the same, but the color scheme is very, very reminiscent. You're right. And the way that the arms split right there on Copperhead's pants, they split the same way. The inside thigh is that light lime green and the outside is teal. So I see where you're coming from with that. It's not quite the same, but I think with this paint job, they were probably just going for the blacklight reactivity.
Now, one of the things that I think that is really interesting here is that we also have to mention this, and we'll do this real quick because we're about to go to break, but the tariff situation, right? Because we just got notified by the government that anything that is leaving and departing China after the 1st of November is going to receive this 100% add-on tariff to what the current tariff already is. And you're going to have figures like this that are going to be affected. You're going to have toys that are going to be affected. And look, that was probably a huge conversation at New York Comic Con amongst the different heads of different companies on how they're tackling it, because we had this discussion before about the tariff, and I don't want to get fully into the tariff, but when you start looking at the price point on some of this stuff, you're going to start seeing it reflected. And as Eric posted up here, you can see that these figures are now at $27.99 pre-order, and that's just for any type of packaging. And then Big Bad Toy Store does offer a collector grade, which is the $3 more, and for $30.99 you can get a guaranteed mint box, a mint package for this. But it is going to affect these things. So when this type of item comes out, it does affect these products, and you need to be aware of this, guys, that when it comes down to it, the tariff gets passed on to the end user. It's just how it works. Now, in our world, the end user isn't necessarily always the consumer. It happens to be the retailer, right? The retailer is the one that takes on that expense. Brendan, I know that you had mentioned something about the fact that Big Bad Toy Store had said, hey, the tariff situation, if you don't like what that is, we're not going to hold you to your order, and you can be able to cancel it. That's a nice way to do that. And I get it. You have to be proactive, and it's so hard as a business. And I can only imagine the channels that they have, but I just think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that there's a chance that you're going to see a product change and price on this. And is this finally, because I've talked about this before, are we now going to see our Marvel Legends and our Black Series Star Wars and our G.I. Joe and, a bunch of these, our AEW figures and our WWE figures, all of these different type figures? Are we going to see this stuff surpass the $30 a figure range? Because at $30 a figure, on the national average, that is about 2.5 hours of work, right? Based on the national average of what people are being paid. So when you start looking at it from that standpoint, like it starts, I don't recall when I was a kid, my dad getting paid, $1.29 that I was paying for Star Wars an hour, let alone, that matching up to what it was for two. The inflation has definitely far succeeded.
Minimum wage hasn't changed in the last 30 years.
Right. So it's like
the cost of goods has gone up. Yeah.
Right. And the cost of goods just continues to grow and everything. And I understand that we, try to pass this on across the board, but at some point there's got to be a safe and easy way. And this tariff situation is a real thing. It's real for the consumers. It's real for the retailers. It's challenging. It's creating all type of sourcing issues and stuff like that. So just something as a consumer for you guys to pay attention to. Now, we are going to go to break, guys, but when we come back, we are talking WWE. And man, WWE is hotter than it's ever been right now. There's so many great storylines, so many good things going on. We just saw a massive, massive thing go down this last weekend. But we'll talk about that when we come back to the break right here on the C3 Pod.
Peppermint Patty's the worst. Comic-Con.com, your daily comic convention online. Insightful reviews, previews of the comics, toys, and games you need to know. Delightful chats with luminaries from around the geek spectrum. In print, on video, and everywhere in between. The show never stops on Comic-Con.com.
All right, welcome back to the C3 Pod here. We have a ton of stuff to talk about in the world of WWE coming up. But first off, I want to thank our friends at Voodoo Brewery, who support the program down in the Arts District here in Las Vegas. Stop by and see Voodoo Brewery. Always lots of cool events, things going on, craft brews. They even have a full cocktail list. So if you're, a cocktail connoisseur, and it's gotten a little chilly in Vegas, and this is some of the best time to go out in the evenings and go to these type of venues. And this is a perfect venue for you to go to take in. You can go 7, 8 o'clock at night, have yourself a couple cocktails, meet some friends, play some Jenga outside, some oversized Jenga or something in the patio. And then there's always performances, DJs. They do trivia, they do comedy. I mean, you name it, they're doing something there. So again, go see Voodoo Brewery, Allison and the team over there, and make sure you tell them that C3 Pod sent you. But guys, we have a ton of stuff to talk about. And what's funny is that I want to set this up a little differently than I think what was intended, which was we got a call back to the final boss making another appearance in WWE. Yeah. And he came out. He's not real happy with the bloodline, and he's setting up some type of situation between himself and Roman Reigns. And when he comes out to do that, and it looks like what they're building this up to be is maybe like a power struggle here at the end of the year. And it's going to be like, hey, you've got these guys over here who turned, right, on Seth Rollins, and then you turn around on the other side and you've got, the number one. Now someone else is saying they're the number one, and then the number one of all number ones walks out and really kind of creates that impression. But what's funny about it is that let's talk business. A lot of times when appearances are being done like this, it's also a media play, right? And our media play is to get that person relevant again. And I'll point one out, right? Did we just have Jelly Roll, right? Jelly Roll was involved, and he was a big part of the storyline, right?
Wasn't that long ago, yeah.
Well, what happens is that let's remind everyone that Jelly Roll was the other artist on the Post Malone tour, but that Jelly Roll is going to have his own tour. So his thing was this was marketing to put him out in front of everybody to get people talking about him and looking for him. So either when they announce, say, new products, new music, or a new tour, you're looking and you see something. You're like, oh, this guy's just in WWE. Let's go see his concert or whatever it is. So look, I say there's a cost of entry in everything you do. And obviously that's what that is. They brought Jelly Roll in. Brings more relevance to his brand. He got on the Tonight Show. He hosted the Tonight Show. He did a bunch of these different things for WWE and for his brand. Ultimately, it was a huge success, right? Yeah. Because that marketing that he got, and don't get me wrong, the guy didn't need the marketing, but the marketing that he got from it was incredible. But the reason I bring this up is because why would we see The Rock come back into WWE? And that is because the Smashing Machine came out. Oh, yeah. Brendan, tell us about this. And I'm going to preface this right now. I would not watch this movie because I don't believe in supporting Emily Blunt. That's just my own personal opinion.
Interesting.
Okay. So because she's on it, I would never watch it. I would not pay money. I would not support it because of that. It's my own personal thing. And that is whenever I think someone is acted out of pocket to try to defame someone or to bring someone down, I think it's not someone that I want to support. And so I wouldn't support that. But with that said, that doesn't mean that I wouldn't eventually watch this film because it was free on, Nick at Night or something.
It's going to be on Tubi next week, I promise, because they had a $50 million budget on this one.
I love how Nick at Night's the frame of reference. Not to interrupt, Brendan.
There's a little bit of a shot there.
No, that's like 8 years down the road when it's not doing well on other cable networks, so they throw it in on Nick at Night. Anyway, go on, Brendan.
No, Nick at Night. No, back up. Nick at Night did a really good job in the 90s and the 2000s
with the syndication of replays. No doubt,
picking up syndication of Friends and like shows that incredible. We're still running because Friends had a 10-year run. And while they were still running, people could catch up by watching Nick at Night. And that's how I got stuck watching Friends. I've watched every episode of Friends. I shit you not, probably 50 times because now it runs because I used to go to sleep to it on Nick at Night.
Yes.
Now it runs in the background while I'm working because I need something to occupy the toddler in my brain while I'm working or I can't get anything done.
And that's when Nick at Night.
Step off of Nick at Night.
Hey, no, I respect it. I respect it because Nick at Night at one point when I was really young replayed all like the old Brady Bunch, Gilligan's Island type of shows, and then it kind of pivoted to the more 90s sitcom syndication.
Let me make it more relevant for you.
Sorry.
Instead,
it's going to be on Tubi.
I will wait for it to go to True TV at
Pluto.
There you go. Okay.
Tubi. Yeah, True.
So anyway, they had a $50 million budget on this one. which is not massive. But when you realize that The Rock took most of that as his salary, then you realize what they were actually working with. It only opened to $6 million. It's his first dramatic role. People want to see The Rock in family films. They want to see him in comedies because he does really good. When you look at him at Moana and stuff like that, like that's where he really shines. Like people were confused by this. They didn't go to see it. For reference, his most popular films, Furious 7 made $1.51 billion. Fate of the Furious made $1.2 billion. Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle was $962 million. Next Level was $801 million. Fast and Furious 6 was $788 million. And then you compare that to $6 million, and it just
well,
flopped.
you know what comes in right underneath Fast and Furious 6 is the Jungle Cruise sequel.
Right.
That one. Let's talk about this for a minute. As many great hits that The Rock has had, he's had a bunch of failures and disappointments, and those have come from him doing everything.
Yeah, recently too. Recently, and Black Adam was a bomb.
When you don't say no to a role, right? Like you kind of become that guy. And I think of, there were some of those actors like in the mid 90s that you saw this with, right? Where they were such a big deal, and then all of a sudden just the massive fall off, right? This is why, like, surprisingly to me, the guy that I would think that would like have a massive run at things would be like Chris Evans, right? That he's a guy that was so recognizable, he's so likable, he's so fun, he's such a good dude, he comes off as a fan favorite, people love him, he's one of those guys that could easily maintain a ton of roles. But Chris Evans is really picky on what he takes. And because of that, it's made him, successful every time he hits a screen, right? Even if it's for a small role in something, he still like nails it and does well. It's just my opinion, but The Rock, man, has done everything. And the stuff that he's been super successful at, he's like either not taking it serious enough to like make it a big thing for him. And I think of our friend like, Noel G, which, by the way, Noel G, happy birthday. I know he just had a birthday that passed. But Noel G, he plays Hector, right? He takes roles that Hector would fit. He plays that role, and he does that well. He understands what his role is, where he's at, how he handles that stuff. Whereas, you look at someone like The Rock, and don't get me wrong, I would take every single role that comes my way if I was him, and I would, bank on the money and whatever it is.
Make hay while the sun shines.
At some point, there is some money that you don't need to take, especially when it could hurt your brand. And this is one that this could definitely affect his brand.
And plus, so much of what he has done lately in many ways is kind of just play a heightened version of himself. If you look at every character he essentially, plays, he is kind of just doing the same thing, rinse, wash, repeat. And, if it works for you, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But what's interesting is that, you have a mainstream star like The Rock. UFC obviously is in a much different era than it was than the era of Mark Kerr himself. But when you portray a fighter like Mark Kerr from the sport of MMA and the promotion of UFC in its formative years. Now, he was a monumental fighter, one of the first American wrestlers to transfer over from the amateur ranks to fight in MMA when it was still, a budgeting sport. Next thing you know, he's the heavyweight champion of the world, and he's a big, big deal. But it was at a time that so many people don't know. Most of your, even just the casual MMA audience, they don't know about fighters from that era. So, yeah, maybe it has like a documentary feel, given the fact this was based off of an HBO documentary from about 20 years ago anyway. So it has an informative element, but the problem is there's just not an appeal to, even if The Rock is attached to it, even if Emily Blunt is attached to it, there's not enough of appeal about Mark Kerr to generate a lot of money. Now, the critical reviews are apparently pretty strong. In terms of the whole award season buzz, the Oscar buzz it's getting, I don't know. Anytime a movie comes out in October, next thing you know, you have the whole holiday period, you have award season. Anytime someone says in the fall that something could get a buzz and usually doesn't because it just kind of dies off and loses some steam, we'll have to see come February if it still has that momentum. But it's just kind of like where we are. We've seen Marvel movies in recent years have good critical reception, but terrible box office numbers. It just goes to show that a studio.
I mean, you could just point out Black Adam. Right here, on the Rock, Eric just said in the comments. I mean, Black Adam was so bad it essentially they had to reboot the DC universe because of it. It was so bad. Exactly. Yeah, Paul. When you see an actor like The Rock being so active, taking so many roles, and then finding a box office situation like he's finding here, like do you think that this is a huge black eye on his brand? And is this going to get people to start saying, hey, maybe he's no longer the marketable guy that he was? What are your thoughts on that, Paul?
Oh man, gee. I don't know if you can lose it, you know? He's always going to be marketable, right? I mean, I don't know. It's so weird with Hollywood, how everything ebbs and flows. Yeah. And, the people that you least think are going to be, skyrocketing and maintaining, do it. And then others, almost like one-hit wonders. I don't know. They fall off and you don't hear from them again. So, man, this is a tough one for me.
Erik points out that Jared Leto makes only bombs and somehow he still gets high profile work.
Right. Well,
yeah.
That's what happens when you're a cult leader and anyway.
Yeah. Well, no, but on Jared Leto, like one of the things that I'll point out that, look, I thought that his Joker was really good.
Yeah.
Right. The problem was we didn't get any Joker. And the Joker that we got was so small that you really couldn't get a full body of work to be able to say, oh, this is. So the spots where he had a chance to shine, I don't think he's actually really given the opportunity. And then obviously when he plays Morbius or, one of these characters like that, look, the Morbius thing probably was to make Morbius its own standalone. I think was a bad idea by Marvel. I think that's less of an, indictment on Jared Leto as much as it is poor planning with, trying to make, why would you make Spider-Man villains
and no Spider-Man
the lead, right? When you can,
well, they had to do that with Venom because they didn't have the rights,
right? And that's the thing is I don't know. It's when it comes to that point, I would have almost branded that differently. Like that could have been branded a Venom movie, or that could have been branded a Spider-Man movie, and then it would have been, the Night of Morbius or whatever you call it, right? And it's about him pursuing the villain more than it's about the storyline of the villain, to you.
And so much of speaking of the studio, that has so much to do with it. But here's the thing. This isn't just it may have the feel of an independent film because it's an A24 film, but the Smashing Machine isn't some, cheap on paper clips and rubber band type of budget. Again, this was a major documentary that a lot of people wanted to adapt for a long time. They finally get two major stars, and it's a studio that's drawn a lot of money. Lady Bird made 80 million. Moonlight made 64 million. Uncut Gems 50 million. Midsommar 46 million. The Whale 40 million. For these type of films, and compared to some of the other
stuff, what you
DC,
just
Marvel,
did,
Star
and I
Wars,
want to point this out because I actually think that's a really great illustration.
Yeah,
is you just illustrated a whole bunch of movies that this budget would not have made profit.
Right.
It's all of those. So
it's all about the return. Exactly.
How was their expectation that this was going to make money in comparison? Paul, have you seen anything like this before? Like now that he just brought that up and illustrated that, have you seen where a place is like, hey, we're going to throw a huge budget into this, but everything else that we've done in that world has not made that kind of money, but now all of a sudden we're going to? Like, have you seen that kind of risk, or is this?
No, because no, you're always using other people's money, and no, I've not seen people just throw it at that, thinking like, oh, will it make it? I don't know. So I don't know if there's an overabundance of money, or that they have to go through, or what's going on. But no, you never make something thinking that hey, I'm okay with just breaking even on this. Everybody wants to just keep hitting home runs, and for them to risk so much money on something, I have not seen that before.
And another interesting point of comparison is that another A24 film that was a biopic that kind of ventures into similar territory is The Iron Claw. So this is interesting in terms of knowing your audience. It shows that wrestling fans who may have not been alive during the Von Erich years are way more likely to go see a historical film or a film rooted about actual people than they are in the MMA world, because so many people in the MMA sphere just started getting into the sport within the last 10 years, within Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, even going back to like Brock Lesnar, GSP. Right. It's the more modern audience. The people who are watching the Mark Kerrs, the Randy Randy Couture's, the Don Frys, the Dan Severns, the Mark Colemans of the world. I mean, I was, but I'm a niche, a part of that niche audience. Most of the people who are going out to see, spending their hard-earned money to go see movies, they want something they know. They want something familiar. Kerry Von Erich, Kevin Von Erich, Fritz Von Erich, even though they may seem dated compared to where we are now in the world of wrestling, those names create more buzz with the wrestling crowd than I think Mark Kerr does with the modern-day MMA crowd. So he's a monumental figure that you really need to include in terms of the timeline and the evolution of the sport. That doesn't mean, though, necessarily it's going to be have that wide appeal, that mass appeal that draws in money, even for a studio that for these small independent type of feel movies, even though they're not independent, it kind of just deviates from that. Even though it has the same aesthetic, it doesn't have the same appeal, and we see the financial return as a result.
Well, and you could talk about, say, like, for example, in WWE right now, if I bring up Tom Aspinall,
right,
I guarantee you know who Tom Aspinall is. If I ask Paul, if I ask Brendan, they're gonna be like, he might be a UFC fighter, 100%. I guess, because we just brought it up. Whereas 100%. If I go Dominic Mysterio to almost anybody, and he's not even that big of a deal,
right?
Most people.
Whoa. Dirty Dom's not a big deal.
He is not that big of a deal.
Kid, no, hold up. That kid went from being the little kid who was featured on WCW when Eddie Guerrero came out. And was
understand what you're talking about. What I'm telling you is that to the mass market right now,
the Heat, nothing but pure earned heat. So Paul, take that and stick it in your ear.
Dirty Dom.
I want you to go ask 10 people on the street, just 10 people on the street randomly. Who is Dominic Mysterio, and where
the number 4 earner in the company that you're going to ask? One of the biggest companies, one of the most broadcast, most exposed companies in the world. You've got the number 4 earner in the company, and you're thinking that you go out to the street, they're not going to know who he is.
Stop talking about wrestling and talk about the pop culture world. And I'm telling you that he is equal
to
Tom
their numbers.
Even
when they did the stupid, confusing thing where they mixed up 16 different streaming services for whatever. I mean, most of us have a VPN, so we don't use the 16 different services because on England's Netflix, they have all the shows, wink, wink. But even though they did all the stupid stuff that they're doing where they split it up to ESPN and all these different shows or whatever, they're still getting the best ratings or whatever. But we have to get to these brackets because you guys got too into the opening of my bracket.
There, you had to take over this whole discussion.
I just want to quickly mention, and I don't know if it probably has nothing to do with this show,
but another who Dominic Mysterio is.
Another wrestling movie that was based on maybe on a documentary. I don't know if you guys saw that or if it has anything to do with this topic today, but Fighting with My Family.
Yeah, Paige on Paige.
Oh yeah,
right?
Soraya.
Or Soraya Bevis. Yeah, right.
I found that. Yeah. I mean, I loved both the documentary and then, of course, the
so
film.
After we finish, let's talk about the Bevis family in the UK, but we don't have time for that right now because we've got to get this bracket in. So we're talking about this wrestling
really
stuff.
Quick, Brennan. Paul, answer the question. Paul, do you know who Dirty Dom is? Does that what? Yes or no?
The one from Pornography, yes. Otherwise, no.
All right, we can.
No, this dude has been locked in his mom's apartment for the past 6 months. He doesn't know anything about pop culture right now.
Casual observer doesn't know who he is, and casual observer to UFC doesn't know who Tom Aspinall is.
Yeah. It's if you want traction, you got to go with the familiarity. Mark Kerr doesn't have it. Some guys don't have it, even if the story makes for a great screenplay. Yeah.
So this bracket, Brendan, this is about what the wrestlers.
So here's the thing: is you've got The Rock, who basically he has successful films when he plays The Rock because he's The Rock and he's been doing it for 20 years. Interestingly, a lot of professional wrestlers who do really well live because they're feeding off the audience and they're reacting to what's happening. When you're on a TV set or a movie set, you don't have that same immediate feedback. What you're doing is good or what you're doing is bad. You need to pivot. And they do that all the time, but it doesn't always translate to the silver screen. So what I've got here is a list of some of the most famous wrestlers who have gone into acting. And I'm going to ask you guys to pick in each bracket a winner who you think has the most impact in pop culture who came over from professional wrestling. The first one is Andre the Giant in Princess Bride. Andre the Giant basically is only known for this one role, but here in 2025, and this movie is 35 years old. In 2025, people quote Andre the Giant from this film all the time. The second one in this bracket, so bracket 1, match 1, he's up against Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper for They Live. How many times this week have you heard, I came here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
He also was in Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but in that one, he was playing a wrestler. He was kind of playing Roddy Piper, but Roddy Piper, who was living out of his car, basically. He was playing, what did they call him? He was the Mangler or something like that. Anyway.
Right.
I forget what he was in Always Sunny, but he was brilliant in that. So just based on the movies, though, between Andre the Giant and Princess Bride and Roddy Piper, they both had one big movie and nothing else. Who do you pick in this bracket?
Andre.
I'm going Andre. I think Roddy's obviously a much better actor given what he was able to do. And like a lot of people even said that if he really could continued with it and persisted at it and made it a focus post wrestling, he actually really could have had a lot of success. But if we're going off of the immediate thought, the immediate emotional appeal, the immediate just resonation, it's got to be Andre, mainly just because this movie is so timeless, as you said, Brendan.
I think it is, but I feel like Roddy Piper's role was so much greater compared to what the role of Andre the Giant was. Like it meant more to the movie. I always say it's easy to get a line or two, right? It's hard to, I mean, Paul, you know this, right? Do a solid 5, let alone a 20-minute set in comedy, right? So when you get 3 minutes, 5 minutes of screen time up against, a movie, right? I think it's different. And the fact that Piper had to, go the entire thing, learn all the lines, be able to deliver all that stuff, and have such a heavy amount of screen time. Yeah. I'm going to go Roddy Piper in this because I think that he was more successful as an actor. I would say that was a great bit for Andre the Giant. Okay. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. So you're outnumbered though. So Andre takes that round. Because they both went with Andre the Giant. So,
well, do you get that one and still feel like I agree to disagree?
Do you? No, definitely. But do you get a vote, Brendan? I know you're kind of moderating, but what would your vote be?
I would go with Andre the Giant with it, and it's funny because I got the Andre the Giant blow up suit that makes you 8 feet tall. Like you're looking through his nipples, right? And my son, my son was home for Christmas from the army and he was sleeping on my couch. And on Christmas Eve, I put on the suit and I came out and I had a really bright flashlight and I put it right in his face and I went, "I am the Dread Pirate Roberts." And he went, and I put the video on the internet because I'm a good dad. But this is one of my favorite all-time characters in film. I love Andre the Giant. Really? I love the behind-the-scenes stuff where they're having to bring him cases of soda and beer because he drinks a gallon or two with a meal. And just how sweet he was during the shooting and stuff with his co-stars and things like that. I love Andre the Giant as a human being, and I loved him in this film. It's one of my all-time favorite films and one of my all-time favorite characters. So no chance here.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
The next bracket. We have Jesse Ventura in Predator, who's known for I Ain't Got Time to Bleed and Sexual Tyrannosaurus, which people quote all the time. And then we have Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan, his most famous role, I think, is No Holds Barred. He was also Thunder Lips in Rocky III, which is a great role for him. Yep. But he also made movies like Suburban Commando and Mr. Nanny. So where do we land on this?
And also did a lot of television with the A-Team and stuff like that. I kind of think it's almost a similar thing. I think as far as an actual role, Jesse Ventura, of all the ones you have listed here in the run of show, Brennan, I think Jesse Ventura may actually have my favorite individual role of all of these wrestlers. But if we're going over a complete body of work, since we're talking about the transitional, right, the crossover aspects, I'm still going to have to go Hogan, right? Just because, I mean, they were throwing roles his way. I think Jesse, all in all, was probably just a more talented person in the wrestling industry, not as impactful, but probably more talented in many aspects. And because of that carried over to acting. I think Ventura, he obviously decided to make a career out of politics, but I think he truly could have been one heck of an actor. But I think you have to go with Hogan just because he just was able to tap into a few more avenues. So I'd probably go with Hogan.
All right. What do you think, Paul?
Hogan. Yeah. I agree with everything you guys are saying, both in the last one and in this one. But I mean, as an actor, sure, Jesse the Body Ventura. But I think as iconic as Hogan has been, right, and just being, and transcending not just that, but also like, stay in school kids or, whatever it was always, it seemed, for the children.
Say your prayers, eat your vitamins when he's clearly on the cycle.
Right. On the juice.
Well, that's what he meant by vitamins. So,
yeah, right.
So
kind of vitamin.
Hogan.
I'm going to go against the grain again, but I'm going to utilize a point that Brett brought up, which is, you're right, Jesse Ventura, because we're talking about their transition into acting, right? he got you to believe he was a politician and he became the governor of Minnesota. So I'm going to say, case in point, he was a significantly better actor and absolutely destroys this bracket, in my opinion. But I'll let the popular opinion weigh on this. But
okay,
yeah,
it's 2-1 again. Steve is just being the contrarian so far on everything.
Upstream.
But I'm not wrong. Tell me I'm wrong, because that is the best acting job you can get is politics.
And a lot of success,
the next bracket,
too.
Or the next match we have is Kevin Nash. There he is in The Punisher, and an interesting story about that I'll get to in a second. But he was in Magic Mike XXL, The Longest Yard, John Wick. Kevin Nash is so hardcore. That scene where he gets stabbed in the chest.
You did not mention his best role.
What's that?
Shredder.
Oh, that's right. He was in the original TMNT. He was the guy in the Super Shredder suit.
Wow.
Because he's a legit 6'10". So they had to have a big guy. He didn't do any of the speaking or whatever, but he was the physical TMNT. That's a good point. That might change me on this one. But anyway, in that scene in Punisher where he gets stabbed in the chest, that was a real butterfly knife. The props master screwed up. Thomas Jane stabbed him in the pec with a real butterfly knife. Kevin finishes the scene, doesn't even realize he's been stabbed, looks down, pulls it out. He's like, oh shit. And that's the scene that's in the film. You're actually watching Kevin Nash get stabbed in the chest, walk through, finish the scene, and that's what they use. So
savage.
Wow, right?
Yeah.
And he's going up against The Rock. So The Rock did Smashing Machine. He is great, like I said, in family films. He did great with Moana, but he was also in The Scorpion King, and he was also The Smashing Machine. So he's got, equally great and equally terrible stuff on his resume. So with that kind of mid-average, where do you fall on Kevin Nash versus The Rock?
Well, I'm going to start off with this one since we've let Brett start off. I'm definitely leaning The Rock, but I want to point a few things out that I think are very important. My notice of him is that when he's failed, there's been another semi-big name actor that is very polarizing that is involved, right? Like, for example, look, Jumanji did well, whatever, but I just, when you start really looking at the body of work, Jack is really not the guy that everybody draws to go see his movies, right? So when you have a guy like Jack Black that goes in and he he's a bigger in life character in everything he does. It's always overlandish, right? It's always overdone. And he's one of those guys that takes away from the value of what screen time might actually be. And so I feel like there's been casting issues with The Rock that have created some of these failures. And I pointed it out when we brought it up, and I'll point it out again. Emily Blunt is not the most liked in Hollywood right now. She is very, very far from, people's favorite actress. And so I think that that's very, very fair. And, Brendan, you commented in the chat that everybody watched Jumanji for Karen Gillan. And, it's very possible, but I'm pointing that out. But even with that said, The Rock's career in acting is superseding. And this, to me, this is the 1 seed going up against the 10. That's just my opinion. The Rock by far has had a better career and has a better impact into the world of acting.
But has he been real life stabbed in the chest and finished the scene?
Is he a method actor? Right. But, and that's what's interesting, because you also have the early roles, right? You have Gridiron Gang, Walking Tall, The Rundown. You have all these roles to where he was kind of playing himself, but he was in a world so much different from wrestling. It was kind of like Cena's early roles. There was just that alone was kind of fun, but then you get a little bit deeper into it, and he hasn't evolved as much, even though he's grossing a lot of money because of the Furious movies, because of Moana and stuff like that. But it's also Steve, you mentioned the co-stars. I also think source material has a lot to do with it too, because Black Adam, of all things, at this point, the DC universe or extended universe was on life support. People were happy with the way it was going. At that point, obviously, The Rock had some political comments that, polarized people around that time, and the movie flopped. And it was not only a DC movie that was kind of the universe that was being diminished, it was a character that's not particularly well known. I mean, Black Adam among the diehards may be known, not exactly a mainstream DC character. So even though he's a big star, I sometimes wonder if not necessarily overestimated how big of a star he is, but sometimes the studios thought that he was enough to make something that wasn't that big of a brand into a big brand. And it just doesn't work that way. And
that's a lot to carry sometimes.
Well, what's funny
and I think that's
if you wanted a comparison, it's Gambit, right? Like when you look at the character of Gambit and then you understand that he is big enough of an actor to make Gambit work.
Right.
Whereas the flip side of, I actually think that The Rock would play in the superhero world if he's not playing a main villain or a main hero, that he would be one of those guys that would be better superseded. Like this should have been a Shazam movie.
Right.
That was
Shazam
building on the success of Shazam and doing that.
Paul, wait, you just said that. You just said that, and I just realized The Rock, especially like with this look right here, would make a fantastic egghead in the DC universe.
Yeah, he does. And thanks to Brennan Allen, I actually just learned something interesting about Buford Pusser, who is the character in Walking Tall, who he's based off of. So fun fact there. But now I'm with you guys. You know, it's the body work, the resume, the money he's made kind of makes it impossible. It's like it feels like a 1 versus 16 in the NCAA tournament, Steve.
Exactly.
But you can make the case that maybe Kevin Nash is actually better at the art form. It's kind of a time and place type of thing. It's
all right. So
weird.
We're running short on time though, Brett. So we just need a Rock or a Nash. Yeah. Okay.
The Rock.
And who do you have there, Paul?
Well, first of all, thanks to Steve there, the Salmon Contrarian Johnston, all great, all great points. But I have to go. My joke was going to be, you're only as good as your last project, so forget The Rock. But no, I'm a big fan. He was in a movie that a couple of my friends wrote, which was Central Intelligence with Kevin Hart. I mean,
That's
love
actually one of his better ones. Yeah.
I thought so. I was
for comedy.
Yeah.
So we're The Rock across the board here on this one.
The Rock.
Yep.
All right. Last fight in the first round. We've got John Cena, who is killing it right now as Peacemaker. He has made some terrible films like Surf's Up 2 and The Marine, which the Marine was just awful. But Surf's Up 2, it's like they took this film that did really well and they're like, yeah, but as improbable as surfing penguins are, let's make them wrestling surfing penguins and take all the original cast out of it. Like, it's just so stupid. But dude, how good was that last season of Peacemaker?
Oh, I mean, and then you want to talk about the DC kind of falling apart at the time of Black Adam. Cena gets the benefit, not saying it's, any luxury that he's earned and The Rock didn't earn. It's just a matter of timing. But now Cena is a recipient of the DCU starting to thrive under James Gunn, and he's helping along with Superman spearhead that new direction. So it kind of just shows that he's in the right place at the right time. But it's also because, when you're good at what you do and you're smart and you have that savviness, you also create those opportunities to be in the right place at the right time.
And I feel a little bit bad about how the brackets played out, because when I did the seeds or whatever, it just happened this way. So he's up against Randy Savage, who played Bonesaw McGraw in Spider-Man. And this almost isn't fair, because Bonesaw in this movie is 100% Macho Man Randy Savage. So he's in there, but I really don't feel like he's got a shot in this one, because we're all really sweet on Cena right now. But go ahead and tell me, Cena or Savage?
Steve, go ahead.
Well, look, Savage had all those Slim Jim commercials, which we do need to put into,
consideration.
But he's playing Macho Man Randy Savage in every project, because he can't do anything else at this point.
But what's funny is that I think that he also played Macho Man Randy Savage in real life, right? So I think
he never left the gimmick.
Acted his entire career.
Miss Elizabeth will tell you that.
Like, it was always on. Whereas Cena will shift gears, and you will see this. And I personally, I'm going to tell this story really quick. I am definitely going John Cena, right? And the reason I am doing it, though, is one, he has taken a character that no one knew anything about with Peacemaker and making it a household character. He is becoming a Deadpool-ish type character.
Yes,
and it is because of Cena's portrayal, not because of the comic book adaptation. So,
well, it's interesting that you bring up Deadpool, because there's no personal development ever with Deadpool. He's the same character today as he was yesterday. He doesn't ever learn anything. But you see the character development from the first episode of the first season to the final episode of the second season. You see how much the Peacemaker character has changed, and that's all due to John Cena's newly acquired acting chops, because he didn't show any of this before.
Right. And that's I'll tell you this. Yeah. If they had that type of a game plan on the Marvel side with Moon Knight, we'd be looking at the Moon Knight character the same way. But unfortunately, it wasn't portrayed that way. It wasn't given to you that way. And the way that this character has been portrayed, this, to be honest with you, this reminds me of Chris Pratt's rise as Star-Lord. Right, Star-Lord was a secondary character that not most anybody knew anything about,
probably
because
tertiary.
of how he portrayed Star-Lord and everything. And look, he had successes before. Cena's had successes before. Being able to take this role, learn from what you've done. I mean, the guy, right time, right place. You're talking about. He's getting out of WWE because of this, and this is exactly why. It's because he is now a real actor and really going to be able to portray it. But I will tell you this: he is someone that can shift the gear in a heartbeat, because he was at an event that we had. We had him come, and we had a kid that with special needs that missed the meet and greet time with him, and was just distraught and was sitting in the hallway, hands over his face, head down, sobbing, crying. And WWE is trying to get him, Cena, on a flight to Phoenix so he can make I think this was, they were doing like a Saturday night taping of something out there. I don't remember what it was, but he was on the card that night.
Saturday night main event?
Yeah, might have been what it was. But this was, a few years back. So seeing the handlers pulling him, going, John, we got to go make this flight. We got to make this flight. He sees this kid. He's dressed. He's in all his stuff. He sits down on the floor, but right before he sits down on the floor, he turns over, and this is like business Cena, right? Totally business Cena. He looks at him and he goes, Phoenix can wait.
Yep.
WWE can wait.
So he is.
And if I need to buy my own plane to take me to Phoenix when I'm done, then we will do that. Do you understand me? And the handler was like, yeah, John, absolutely. Okay. And stepped up. He sat on the floor, gave his wristbands, and sat with that kid for half an hour and gave him a private experience and did this. But he went from being business to John Cena like that.
And that's what he's known
in that
for.
moment, I realized this guy understands how to handle the moment, how to be the character, and how to transition to the character that way. And I was impressed, and it made me a John Cena fan, and I'll be a John Cena fan for life because of this.
I mean, you look at the Make-A-Wishes, you look at the way he talks to the media, you look like the way he talks to bystanders on the street or even a red carpet at a premiere, casual fans, people who are diehard fans. It doesn't matter. You want to ask him a question about wrestling, his personal life, he will engage with you. And going back to what Brendan said, right? So often wrestlers struggle because they have the live performance element of being in front of a live crowd on their episodes of Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, the pay-per-views, whatever it is. But sometimes they have trouble adapting to the television or movie set. Cena's one who uses his skills in wrestling to his advantage in television and movies. And that's why I think he may wind up winning this whole thing for us, because we see Cena take all the things that pro wrestlers are good at, being able to adjust on the fly, even as you say, Steve, and he brings them to life in his roles. James Gunn, I think if we're going to weigh all this into consideration, we have to talk about what your contemporaries are saying. Yes. James Gunn has gone on record and said, and he's worked with Chris Pratt and Zoe Saldana and even Dave Bautista, who I have a question about in a second here. But
we'll get to it. We'll get to
he has said Cena is the best in the moment improvisationalist that he has ever worked with. And James Gunn is saying that, and his movies are all rooted in that a lot of the time. So if he's saying that about Cena, and he's only started working with him in the past few years, imagine what other filmmakers are going to start to say. I truly believe when you get Cena, you get a class act professional in every aspect. And we are now starting to see that in the Hollywood side.
Yes, sir. All right, Paul, I need your vote real quick so we can move on.
Yeah, Cena.
Okay.
Yeah. Simple.
So this actually sets up a really interesting second round, and I did not plan it this way, but we have a WrestleMania 3 rematch here between Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan.
That's awesome.
Yeah, love it.
So that's the first bout
baby.
of round 2. Hogan versus Andre. What do you got?
I'm gonna go.
Oh, that's a stumper.
I'm gonna go Hogan only because it's the body of work as an actor, not necessarily one individual appearance. So I'm going body of work and Hogan.
So am I.
Paul?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Paul. I thought we were going down the line. I'm just in habit now.
No, because you keep over talking and Paul doesn't get his segment in. So it's
it's
fair enough.
It's Lawson versus Vato.
Yes.
Who was first? Who was the first wrestler to cross this line from?
Well, I mean, I would immediately go Hogan in commercials
before Andre the Giant. Then.
Yeah, because he had licensing deals within the first year that WWF really was like a staple. he was
The Rock
making
and wrestling.
appearances for different companies.
Okay,
MTV
if
Rock
you'd
and
have
Wrestling
said
connection.
Andre,
Yeah.
I may have gone with Andre, but now, you know, because that was, to me, that was the time. Well, who did it first? But yeah, the body of work of Hulk Hogan definitely, I think, supersedes, you know, Andre the Giant's very iconic role in what could possibly be my favorite movie of all time, The Princess Bride, believe it or not. But, you know, so I have a very special place in my heart for Andre the Giant and what he brought to it. But if, you know, just logically thinking, or sorry if somebody doesn't think this way, then I would have to say Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. There's not
Hulk
a single
Hogan actually
role that
was
Hogan
the
has
first
that's better than Andre's.
wrestler to be in a box office film with no holds barred. So he was the actual first. There was a stuntman named Pat Roach, who was a stuntman and kind of a background actor for a long time before he became a professional wrestler. But Hulk Hogan is regarded as the first.
Was Jerry Lawler, was he on, and I might be way wrong here, but was he on Dukes of Hazzard?
Oh, I don't know. He might have been. Are we counting cameos?
I want to say that he might have been on Dukes of Hazzard with a cameo, and I want to say someone else may have been on the on MASH. But I could be wrong. But I believe that those are two things that stands out to me.
Hazard Homecoming featured Jerry the King Lawler. There's an episode that you can find on YouTube.
Yes, I was right.
Love it.
So
love it.
That would have superseded the appearances of Hogan because Lawler's appearances would have been during.
But we're talking box office and not cameo.
Right, but we're not. We're talking about crossover into acting.
Oh, but okay, all right.
Do they
You're going to take the cameo as acting?
That's the key. Or
all I'm here to do is to find the actual.
When you see Doogie Howser in Harold and Kumar doing a cameo, you're going to say that's acting? That's not his 100% real personality just on screen?
Again, we could be completely having that discussion, but the discussion that was presented to us was wrestling crossing over.
Okay, and then the second match in this bracket is the two biggest, most recognizable current actors now. It's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and John Cena. Who do you have between those two?
This is your winner of the whole thing. This is the winner of the whole thing.
Where are you at,
it's going to be 100%.
Cena.
Okay.
John Cena.
Why Cena?
I come from a comedy background, especially, and then to hear something about, being called a great improviser, it means that he's studied too, though. And I think you guys kind of touched on that, where you see his acting comedy chops coming through. But I feel like with The Rock, it's always The Rock. It's always
but The Rock had Kevin Hart, and Kevin Hart's this bigger than life personality that can absolutely trump somebody, and it didn't happen with him.
No, he held his own. Right. But I think overall, man, this is such a tough one. It's not an easy decision. But maybe because of the piece of the Peacemaker and just the roles that I've seen him in, especially with some friends from like New York, Amy Poehler and Tina Fey, when maybe in Baby Mama.
Name dropping. Love you, Paul.
You did state the fact that your consideration also had to be about you're only as good as your most recent work, right? So from that standpoint, I can understand that with you. Now I'm on the other side of the fence here. Right? I am going The Rock, but I want to preface this with something. If we do this again in a year, I might be standing in a different place. And the reason being is because in a year from now, Cena could be winning awards from Peacemaker.
Yes.
And if he does, that changes the entire conversation here, right? It's like the quarterback who makes the Super Bowl and wins over the quarterback who made it to a Super Bowl. Right.
Gotcha.
That guy, Dan Marino is never going to be considered at the top during his time period, even though he was the most gifted quarterback at his time. Right. It's always going to be Joe Montana just because of the fact, and then John Elway because they won. Right. Yeah. So I might change then. This is closer, but for sure, I am definitely leaning The Rock. And I want to mention this before we go. We do have the Patreon, and on the Patreon, I want to discuss the Batista situation. So I'm just pointing that out.
Oh, I've got it. I've got it.
I've got my winner. I still don't get why he was omitted. That's why I'm happy Brennan.
I got you.
Save it for the Patreon.
Trust me, it's a conscious decision. Trust me, it's a conscious decision.
Okay. But Brett, where are you at on this?
You know, I'm going to go with The Rock right now. I think Cena's a better actor, but if we are going off of successful transition, it has to be The Rock. He was the first to do it. He's still doing it. I know the Smash Machine didn't draw anything, but he's still making money. At one point, The Rock was the highest grossing star on the planet. He may keep playing himself over and over, but guess what? Some of the most prominent action stars of all time.
And that point that you just made is actually part of the reason why his latest movie sucked. Right. Because even though he took a massive pay cut, most of that budget went straight into his pocket. If he had sat there on an art house film, and what normally happens is when actors are working on an art house film, they all come to the table at about equal pay or even equal pay to make the film that they believe in. If he had done that, they would have been able to get better supporting actors. They would have been able to get better, equipment,
marketing, everything,
and staff on set and whatever, and morale would have been higher. But yeah, you guys actually you shocked me with that one because I would have had.
Cena is a much more talented actor. So that's if we're talking about who's better at the craft.
My stance is that a year from now, I'd be now. There was a quick question that Brendan asked. He said, "Where's Montana without Rice?" And I'm going to point something out. John Taylor was a Pro Bowler, and he is not a Pro Bowl talent.
I have one thing to say. I agree with the logic, and it's a valid question to ask, but here's the thing. People forget this. Joe Montana won 2 Super Bowls before Rice
Joe
was
Montana
there.
is, listen, dude, I don't like football now, but I loved football in the 80s, and I loved the 49ers in the 80s. Montana and Rice, I love them to bits, but I'm just saying it's a team. So when you sit there and you look at quarterbacks and you're saying this quarterback over that quarterback, if he didn't have really talented receivers downfield, he's still an average quarterback because it's only
Marino
as good
had
as
really talented receivers. But, in fact, I would argue that if they had won a Super Bowl, Mark Clayton and Mark Duper would both be in the Hall of Fame.
I'm with you.
How do we fall back into football nerd stuff? We're talking about film and wrestling right now.
But here, I want to point something out to you. When you're bringing up Montana and Rice and whatever it is, that there were some equivalents and there were some things there. There's also, guys, this is my biggest argument on why Brady is better than Montana all time is because Brady only had 1 season with a Pro Bowl caliber wide receiver. Like a real Pro Bowl caliber guy. He had guys that played in the Pro Bowl yearly because of him. But I'm telling you that he did more with less than Montana ever had to do. I agree with you here. But I will tell you for the time period, because if that was the case, Jim Kelly should have won 7 or 8 Super Bowls.
Right.
Because
it's all
Hall of Famers.
Yeah. And
I mean, we got to do this final though because we have to go to commercial. We got to pay the bills. In the final now,
that's all I'm going to say. That's
in the final now. You've got Terry Jean Bollea, Hulk Hogan versus Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
And to me, the final
overall impact
was last round.
All the films that they've done.
Yeah. Because I'll tell you right now, The Rock could not do anything for 20 years, not make another appearance, not do any media, not do any social media or anything like that. And 20 years from now, he could stick his head up and he'd be one of the most talked about things. And I think Hogan was struggling towards the end there to be as relevant as he really could have been.
Yeah. Lying about everything. Did you know that he said he was almost the bass player from Metallica?
Yeah. You know, he said he gave Dana White the idea for the UFC, even though Dana White did not found the UFC.
And the George Foreman grill was supposed to be the Hulk Hogan grill, but he didn't have an answering machine, so he didn't get the message. He also wrestled 400 days in a year. You're giving him
a really good argument right now as to why he should be the best
here. He also wrestled 400 days in 1 year because he crossed the international date line so many times that he added 65 or 35 days to the year, and he wrestled 400 days in 1 year.
Yeah. All right, Paul, where are you at?
Man, this is so tough because growing up, Hulk Hogan was such a such an influence and such a person, a star, a superstar. But I think because of his maybe decline at the end, amongst some other, things that he may or said, I guess I'm going to have to go with The Rock.
Well, I think that's fair when you think that you're going full body of work. And unfortunately, we do know that Hogan has passed and, you obviously know his entire story. We still don't know what The Rock's story is. And with not knowing the story, this seems perfect for Brett Lawson.
I go with The Rock because I never, exactly. You know me, that's how it is. I never thought Hogan, though, was ever truly transitioned into the acting life. He made acting appearances. Hulk Hogan never stopped wrestling to become an actor full time. The Rock did. The Rock truly transitioned. I think Hulk Hogan more, stepped foot in the pool momentarily as opposed to actually transition, where The Rock made the clear-cut transition, and I also just think he's better. As far as a wrestler, no one touches, at least in North America, Hulk Hogan's impact in terms of those formative years. Once it went national, once it became a monopoly, and once McMahon bought out all the territory days, he needed a national star. He had it with Hogan, but at the same time, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the film industry, and The Rock takes the cake.
Well, all right. So unanimously, the best wrestler to ever strap in the boots and move into the silver screen and in Hollywood. You guys have The Rock all day long. Rock, your check is in the mail. It's very, very small.
Yeah, you're getting royalties from this one too. We gave you the full budget. So
yes.
That was a really great segment. It's a lot of fun. I think it's perspective, and it's really cool to look at the body of work that these guys have and everything. And when we talk about bodies of work, we've got a lot of great comic books coming up. When we come back from the break, this next week's comics that'll be releasing, and we are talking about another #1 for Spider-Man. But stick around.
Another one.
Listen to the C3 Pod.
And that's why Batista's not on the list.
God damn it. Damn it, Paul.
Oh,
Peppermint Patty's the worst. Comicon.com, your daily comic convention online. Insightful reviews, previews of the comics, toys, and games you need to know. Delightful chats with luminaries from around the geek spectrum. In print, on video, and everywhere in between. The show never stops on Comicon.com.
all right, welcome back to the C3 Pod. The third segment is presented by The Nerd, located second floor of Neonopolis, downtown Las Vegas, in the Fremont Street Experience. The Nerd has all kinds of cool pop culture related stuff for you. Items on display for you to check out, bowling alley, video game arcade, craft cocktails, and micro wrestling, just to name a start to all the things that The Nerd do. So make sure you stop by, see Johnny Borchata and the team over there at The Nerd, second floor of Neonopolis. Upstairs, you can go to The Nerd, check it out. You can even go ride the bull. Paul calls it other things, but, you guys can check it out. But we want to thank The Nerd for their ongoing support of the C3 Pod. And we're on to comics and talking about the comics. And, I think at nauseum, I've mentioned this 5, 6, 7, 8 times, that there's always a #1. There's always this. They're always rebooting. They're always doing stuff. This week is no different. There are #1s coming in that I question why they're being #1s. But it's not a #1 we start off with. It's Detective Comics 1102.
Yeah, you can't get much further away from #1 than that. So we talked about the appearance of the Lion was supposed to happen a couple weeks ago, but it hasn't happened yet, and they're saying that it might happen again now. So this was referenced last month. So here we go again in 1102. It says a mysterious weaponized virus has infected the Dark Knight, and he does not know how long he has left before it takes control of his body and mind. Desperate for answers and unsure how long he has to get them, Batman turns to one of the most brilliant minds in the DC universe, Mr. Terrific. This is a cool cover, but for time's sake, I want to go ahead and go to the variant cover on this one, because Greg Smallwood did a variant on this, and this one right here, it's sideways, so you have to turn, but this is one of the most creative uses of space that I've seen on a DC cover in a while. They realized that they wanted to get the foreground, the midground, and the background, and they didn't have space in the normal ratio, so they widened it out, and by turning it sideways, you get so much more of what's on the wall and what's happening. You really get a picture of what this crime scene looks like if you were on the other side looking through Batman's eyes.
Yeah.
I love the fact that this play with the Joker being tied in, even though we're not really indicated into the solicit on this, that the Joker's involved. And whenever you have these Joker style crime scenes, even if it's a copycat, right? I love the fact that it's done that way. I like that it has whoops in the background, and, it's very fun. And then obviously, if you really focus in on that front left portion, or we'll call it the bottom, with it not being, orientated a certain way. Thank you, Eric, the producer. We see that you've got other characters in this play that are important, and then we even can see in the background that family portrait, whether that's Batman or whether that's affecting some type of who knows, it could be the mayor of Gotham or whatever, right? However that is presented, although I guess from this cover you're kind of made to believe that that's the Waynes, right? So kind of a cool cool take. I like it. I think it's a clean cover, and the portrayal of the Batman. The Batman, the art on Batman. This is very, very cool. So I really, really like this. And also, just to be fair, there's a good chance that Eric, the producer, is not at fault here, and that this was
no, it's 100%. That's how I sent it.
Okay, yeah. The only reason I say that is because this is something that someone that would omit Batista absolutely would do. We'll talk about the Patreon. Don't worry about that. So
yeah,
that
all gets explained if you you can buy the episode for $3, I think, but if you're a $5 Patreon, you can watch all that extra that we do in between. So.
So next up is the Star Wars book.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah, I just had a quick question, and maybe it's for the Patreon or another time. Have comic books done? I feel like what they did, which is go in landscape mode, is that a common thing? Because for me, it's almost like a throwback to photography, as we, because now everything is either vertical or horizontal. Are you going, shorts? Are you going
from the perspective on that? I believe that this is a wraparound cover. So the seam would go right down Batman's face. And so you get half of the bat and the Detective Comics trade on there and the DC trade on there. And I think that barcode goes on the back because it's a little bit taller than what would be a normal cover if they were doing this just as a sideways cover. But as a wraparound, that also adds the thing of like, I'm looking at half the picture and then you flip it over and you go, oh, and there's Gordon and here's some other words and things like that. So it gives you a complete image when you actually look at it opened up from the rear.
But it reads like a regular comic book. Sorry, it's probably a silly question.
Because your paper are oriented the correct way. It's not like
okay. All right, thank you.
Well, and the way that they have it shown, and and I think you brought up a really good point just to mention that. I think that this was intended to look like a photograph. Yeah. So when you mention the fact that it's photography, this was 100% intended to be photography. Now we did show the next cover, which is Star Wars Jedi Knights #8. This is definitely not a photography perspective.
Yeah.
No. So this one is the first appearance of Sunataj, a young girl with strong ties to the Force. This is the most unusual issue yet. Meet Sunataj, a young girl who's strong with the Force. They said that already. Who's in great danger, kidnapped by a group of pirates. This unique story is told through Suna's eyes, allowing you to experience the Force. So the low perspective that you just mentioned is because we're talking about a toddler. We're talking about a very, very small child who's looking up at Yoda, if you can believe that, because Yoda is 2.5 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's about the same height of Paul when he was born, right?
He was born. He walked out that way.
Tall.
He walked out.
This is a question I'm asking Mom, Paul. I'm going to ask her this. Was Paul 2 feet 3 inches when he was born?
We need verification.
I'll ask her.
Next up, we have the Ultimates #17, and this is the introduction of the Fantastic Four to the Ultimates universe. I think I've mentioned ad nauseum how much I hate that quarter-page side head they use for the Ultimates, because you're losing a quarter of the cover art, and you can see that the art was done for that. They don't just give them a minimized spot and go, okay, this is the space you have. Somebody did the art for this, and then they covered up a quarter of it with this stupid title thing. If you go to the Bjorn Berens variant, which is the next one there, this is a much better use of the space. Then so
amazing.
The solicit on this is Ultimate Fantastic Four. Now that the Ultimates are using the Immortus engine to its full capacity, Doom's dread of the Fantastic Four may finally be realized. So you're going to see finally the face-off between Ultimate Doom and the Ultimate Fantastic Four.
Who's that in the bottom right-hand corner?
I think that's it almost looks like, is it Lady Sif? No. It may be. I was about to say the Mighty Thor, but she's not holding Mjolnir. She's holding a sword. So I'm just trying to.
That's what kind of caught me off guard.
Yeah,
I'm not 100% sure who that is.
I haven't been reading
this line, so I have to be honest with you.
Eric says it might be the Ultimate Valkyrie.
Ultimate Valkyrie. That could be. That's probably what
Would
it is.
this be the first?
It's something from
Ultimate Valkyrie then.
Probably because it's something from Asgard. It probably would be.
Well, it's a variant. So sometimes with the variants too, they tease stuff that's coming later. So if Ultimate Valkyrie is coming in that form, it might be something 2 or 3 issues down.
Right. So this might be her first cover appearance. See, sometimes this is what makes some of these books sneaky, is like a cover like this will come out, and then 3 or 4 issues from now, people will go, oh my gosh, and they'll go back and grab it. So I like to pay
there it is.
And speaking of John Cena, that giant Ant-Man in the back bears a striking resemblance. I'm just saying.
It does.
the facial structure, right? The jawline, the lips. Yeah.
All right. And here's the one.
Paul Rudd
right.
As Ant-Man.
Oh, and he says now that it also might be Ultimate Scarlet Witch,
but would Scarlet Witch wield a sword?
Yeah, that's what's throwing me up. The headpiece, the helmet kind of looks like it, but the sword
it's a magic
itself.
sword.
Ooh.
Maybe, but I don't know. I don't see that being.
Paul,
I
in your
believe
expert
Valkyrie
comic book
before I
experience,
believe
is that
it's
Scarlet
from-
Witch or Valkyrie in the lower right there?
Valkyrie.
Well, Paul
The
said
expert
it,
has spoken.
Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
How dare you? I'm dumb, but I'm not that dumb.
Yeah.
All right, the next one is the one
Xena Warrior Princess.
that Steve teased at the open is Radioactive Spider-Man #1, and you can
Oh,
see
that's
that
so
this is
awesome.
Radioactive Spider-Man because he's got those weird little half limbs coming out underneath his shoulder joints, unfriendly and unstable. So this is mean Spider-Man with funny little arms. X years later, the X virus decimated New York, but Spider-Man won't stop fighting. In a desperate gamble, Peter Parker doses himself with lethal radiation to hold the infection at bay. Survival comes at a cost. While this may not kill Peter Parker, it sure messes him up. This is the most dangerous mutated Spider-Man ever, and he's not alone.
Now, this is part of the Age of Revelation, right? And the Age of Revelation is a little bit of a callback to a late 90s, early 2000 run of X-Men.
Yep.
And maybe even might be late 80s, early 90s. I might be wrong in my time period there, right? But that I totally get it. My problem with this is I would rather this is an X-Men book that has Radioactive Spider-Man as the lead character, right? Which I think would totally work. But they went the other way because Spider-Man sells comics. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters, right?
Yep.
So this cover is cool, but also at the same time, there's a lot of little things I like and I don't like about it. The web
Check
work
out the
is
next
great.
cover.
If you take the Spider-Man away, like by himself, it's cool. The Spider-Man on his chest is okay. This cover, I love the action portion of it and the fact that you also have the tie-in call to Hulk in the background, right? Again, to me though, this doesn't have X-Men feel. It has X-Men art, not necessarily the feel of X-Men though. And that's what kind of throws me off here, because if this is supposed to be that tie-in to Age of Revelation and that's going to be a whole run, don't you kind of want to set up the premise of Age of Revelation a little bit more before this? But you said that's Peter.
Yeah. No, what I'm seeing here is that because they're talking about the conflict between Peter Parker and Spider-Man, this moment that's just frying his entire body and frying his entire brain is making that struggle, which is very similar.
You know what I don't like here then though? I don't like the teeth, because that's very Hulk. That's
right, but radiation, gamma radiation, which is where we're at in the Marvel universe for mutation and stuff like that. It's gamma, and that caused that to happen with the Hulk. So I see the similarity with the transformation of Hulk.
Okay.
But also,
Look,
it's kind of coincidental, because the first thing you think of with Marvel superheroes and gamma radiation is the Incredible Hulk. So if you're going to have something that even somewhat resembles that, I think people are going to inevitably fall in that trap. Yeah.
Well, and maybe he runs into some of that Jekyll Hyde stuff that happens with Hulk, and maybe that's maybe we're saying that, like, you know, just inherent in this transformation, things like that, same things that happen with Hulk or whatever, and that struggle that he's always got, that Jekyll and Hyde that's always happening.
The rage.
And it is interesting that they also went with green hues for the electricity, because typically electricity you're going to go with blues, light blues and purples, right? Yeah.
It's almost like
the little arms off the side. That tells me that, you know, he's a symbiote, right? So that's going to become another character.
Right.
And so what's going to happen with this book is, this book down the road, people will go back and say, oh, this is the first cover appearance of whatever that character becomes.
Yeah. And I do like the Jekyll and Hyde illusion, because that's the first thing I think of with, like, the Division, which is going back to Lou Ferrigno. I mean, that was the classic opening, right? So there you go. Yeah.
Well, Paul, what do you think of this, you know, especially with the classic plays on Spider-Man to, you know, something like this that's fairly out there? What's your thoughts on Radioactive Spider-Man?
Yeah, it's almost too far for me, you know, because I guess just growing up with Peter Parker Spider-Man, you know, on TV, and as cheesy as that was, to me, that's always going to be Spider-Man. But then as I've gotten into this, and thanks to you guys, I realize that there's all these other Spider-Mans, all these multiverses, and I don't know what the hell's going on. But no,
all these ways that Marvel is dipping into our pockets.
Yeah.
If it's Spider-Man, it's the number one.
Nice. All right, and to wrap up today on our 17-hour episode, we've got Last Wolverine #1. This is the first appearance of Wonderful Wolverine, who's also known as Wendigo, the Last Wolverine. It says, what happened to Wolverine X years later? They're going with that X years later thing all the time because they're placing this in sometime in the future so they can always backtrack, and it's a lot easier for them to retcon, I think. The people of Vancouver cheer a new hero, the Wonderful Wolverine, a.k.a. Wendigo, Logan's last student. But what happened to Logan? A secret from Wolverine's past will set the last Wolverine on a mission to uphold his mentor's legacy, unless a dire threat burns it all down first. And this cover is okay, but I want to go straight to the variant cover on this one because it's so much better. This is a 1 in 25 puppeteer Lee variant, and it's just heads and tails a better cover than the A cover.
Yeah, that's awesome. Animalistic. That's what we wanted Wolverine, and that's what you got here.
And I like that. I have such a problem that they keep putting all the Marvel characters into Wolverine. We might as well just what if Spider-Man was Wolverine? What if Cyclops was Wolverine? What if because if you're gonna give me a version of Wendigo,
are they just calling every Project X graduate Wolverine now? Is that what it is?
Right. Yeah. And so like to me, it's like, okay, let Wendigo be the last Wolverine, sure. Right? Let that be a thing, but let Wendigo be its own character. Right? And they've already taken this a little too far with it. And again, look, Wolverine sells just like whatever it is, you know? And I get that. And then Erik makes the statement that he is the best at what he does, and what he does is appear on comic book covers. And,
elite, elite class.
It's true. Like, don't get me wrong. You know, Wolverine sells, Deadpool sells, obviously Spider-Man sells, sometimes Superman sells, all the time Batman sells. Like, I get it. It's just one of those things that to me is, I just question why this is, you know, part of the style guide for this, right? And you talk about that all the time, Brendan.
Well, and it's the classic suit, and the classic suit sells. Like, everybody lost their mind that Hugh Jackman put on the classic suit in the latest Deadpool movie. Anytime you get this this yellow and blue suit that's got the big high boots and the greaves and the gauntlets and stuff on it, nerds lose their mind and start paying out the pocket. So it is what it is. You know,
this isn't going to have a general appeal. I'm going to tell you that right now. And I have a very case in point. Paul was asleep during the entire time that we discussed this.
But that may deserve an asterisk because it could be anything that he randomly falls asleep to. But I'm with you because it's almost like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Sure. But if you're spending so much time on that thing that you don't need to fix, you're never addressing anything else. So just because you don't need to fix Wolverine.
Parted his hair down the center to have that classic Wolverine.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those things where it's like, where's the fine line between paying homage and then just being basically resting on your laurels and kind of being lazy? We kind of determine that.
Well, and if you're paying homage here, then why don't you give me that walkout look from the swamp like you got with, you know, Weapon X, right? Like that's kind of what I'm looking for is like, again, be true to the character of Wendigo. He doesn't have to be so ape related. Like he can look a little bit more like a Wolverine. The hair concept, I could even buy into that. But once the suit's on him like this, it's like, what did he do? Like rob his house? Like, I don't know. You know, like, did he steal the suit? Did Xavier?
I hear this doesn't fit anymore. You can have it. These are my
He lived off in the middle of nowhere. No one's gonna see Wendigo wearing these.
No, but if they had just put in the side stripes on the thigh or the chest stripes there, or the high boots, or like one element of Wolverine's thing or whatever, that could be like, you know, Bret Hart's 4 hearts down his leg, right, for each of his 4 children. It could have been something like that. I see your point, but and who knows if he's even wearing this inside the cover or inside the pages, because a lot of times the cover doesn't even match what the design is inside. They're just trying to sell that #1 to get you to read it.
Yeah. Wasn't Bret Hart and Lonesome Dove? Maybe he's an honorable mention for the next bracket.
Oh, no. We'll find out in the Patreon.
Right, exactly.
Well, The Last Wolverine. Are you in or out?
I'm in because I'm such a big fan of Wolverine, but that second cover is really hot. That right there. I mean, yeah, but I am such a big fan of Wolverine. Always have been. yeah, just I love it, and I'm in. I'm in for the last Wolverine. If you could ship me a copy, that would be great.
I need about 17 of this cover. This is a 1 in 25. So you ordered about 2,000 of these, right, Steve?
I mean, there's a good chance I didn't, but we definitely ordered this, and we'll definitely see what's available. Now, Paul, the thing is, like everything else, I'm gonna ship it to the same place your invitations go. Okay, so I'll make sure that it's shipped the exact same way, so there's no change, and your expectation is 100% like it normally is.
Now, my apologies if I did ever fall asleep. I do have sleep apnea, and until there is a hedgehog superhero, I'm really not interested in what's going on. I'm just here for the
We've talked about like 500 different Sonic books, and you have been asleep for every one of them. So.
I'll tell you what, though.
Not that hedgehog.
Yeah. I think we need to create that comic book line for Paul. His hedgehog superhero.
Now, not for nothing. I got a couple stories that we could translate to comics. We could do a one shot and put together stories, and we could make this happen.
I think we could, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but. Well, guys, we appreciate you watching the podcast. Of course, we're here on the C3 Pod each and every week, unless Erik decides to go somewhere. But we definitely appreciate you guys checking in and checking out the content. And if there's stuff you'd like to see, people you'd like us to talk to, and we'll have more special guests coming up. And as always, join the Patreon. You see it there on the screen. Go in, find the extra content, the discussions on the Patreon. We're going to talk about why Brendan decided to not
omit Dave Batista.
Paul called me. I was making the bracket, and I had Batista on there, and Paul called me, and he's like, if you put Batista on there.
Stop. We'll talk about it after. But, guys, this has been the C3 Pod, and we think, Paul, what was you said you had one more thing you wanted to talk about today?
The fact Marino, Montana permeated this pod makes me freaking hyped. I just got to throw that out there. I love the fact not only the current quarterback debate is like about to be on the show. The one from 20 years ago made the show. So we're hitting everything. Just had to throw that in there. So thank you, Steve. I like the take. Yeah, I like it. I really I'm going to use that in the next show we host that's in sports. The Marx brothers, Duper and Clayton, will be in the Hall of Fame if they won one Super Bowl. I actually think that's law. I love that. Just saying. It's true. It's true. I mean, it's a great take. Like that deserves to be on a sports show, and I love it. All right, go ahead, Paul. Anyway,
but of course. More importantly,
go ahead, Paul.
I'm done. Go ahead, Paul.
more importantly, probably the most important thing, really, of the show is my, one of the C's, the coin, creator coin, and that would be a Vato coin.
Oh, that's great.
If you go to vatocoin.com.
Yeah, I'll be right there in a minute. Yeah, no problem. Gotcha. All right,
go there, VatoCoin. Guys, where's everybody? Is nobody listening? VatoCoin. Where's everybody? Am I the only one in here? Am I shouting into the void? VatoVoid. VatoCoin.com. All right. Well, just buy some, I guess. If you're still there. All right. I guess I got to go.